This event is brought to you by World Pro Racing, the Malta Motorsport Federation, GMR Entertainment, WJ England & Son, Melita, Media Looks, Restream.io, Gaming Malta, VisitMalta.com, and TVM Sport. This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
Just so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. Racing. It's so simple. In concept, it's just the easiest thing in the world. You've got to be the fastest. First one across the line, and you win. It's just that simple. Yet, for something that's so simple, it's so difficult. And you can also find that it's something that time and time again, no matter what the format, what the vehicle, what the conditions, it is always something that puts on a show, because the art of finishing first is never as easy as it sounds on paper. To a place where on paper, this is a challenge. This has always been a challenge and always will be a challenging circuit to race at. It's the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, which is the final place where the HyperX Endurance Series finds its crown. My name is Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Nicholas Hillebrand here today for coverage. Today we'll be moving over towards racing action and the practice in just 1 minute's time. But Nicholas, it's a very simple story about this championship. Kyokudo Sentai, 3 wins out of 3, now only needs a top 6 finish today to secure the title.
Well, given his form so far in the season, I think that shouldn't be a problem for him. But obviously, we have a lot of fighting going on in the championship, not just for P1, obviously, since it's mathematically still open. But of course, P2, we saw Windy and Mikhail battling it out for the entire season, and today is also the decider. And what better track could you put, other than Spa-Francorchamps?
There's so many places around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit which has had iconic corner names and has had iconic moments time and time again. You talk about Eau Rouge and Radion, a famous bit of road up the hill, which always seems to encapsulate the minds of a fan, young and old. You have, of course, the run up towards the Kemmel Straight, the prime place to go and make some moves, the former public road that it was. And then you've got the likes of the very, very fearsome Blanchimont corner at the end of the lap, which, of course, strikes fear into the hearts of any driver who looks to try and go on through. But there are a couple of underrated corners as we do just go out on track and have a little look at conditions today. And, well, there's only one word to describe this right now here, Nicholas. It's miserable.
Well, I mean, generally from the sky, yes, but from a driver's point of view, it's the most fun that you can have in a race car. It's raining, it's Spa, it's GT3 car, so you don't have too much downforce either. So it's a little bit more slidey than it would normally be, and of course you have not very much downforce. So getting a clean line in this, but also, you know, being able to push a little bit, being able to slide it, being able to just try and do a bit of alternating lines. You know, this extra challenge, it's a lot of fun for any racing driver.
It certainly is, and we don't often get a chance to talk about wet weather conditions when it goes out into racing. They say that the best way to look at it is if you look like you're going slow, more often than not, you are fast around this place. It's the moment you start looking fast and looking a little bit on the ragged edge that the time does fall away, because rain has that tendency when it comes to racing out here on the tarmac that we've got today, Nicholas, of making everybody who wants to go out and race feel like it's not quite all there, and you have to really dial back to basics when it comes to rain.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, we all know the saying, rain the great equalizer, but quite honestly, I would say it's a real skill test, because in the dry, anyone can be fast, but you know, when it's changing conditions, when it's rain, when it's wet in general, like also when it stopped raining, you know, so changing conditions, I think it's the biggest test that you can have as a racing driver, pushing it on the limit there and actually keeping it all together the entire time and finishing well.
It's all about how you finish a race. This is a long race as well. It's a 90-minute endurance event, and that means that there are multiple opportunities at making mistakes around here. As we look at the man right now, here down on the bottom of your screen, this is how the format's going to go tonight for the final round of the championship. 10 minutes of practice, 20 minutes worth of qualifying, and then we'll have a 90-minute race to decide the champion in this series. And anything can happen when it comes to this circuit. It has happened before. Many a champion has been crowned at Spa-Francorchamps. Many a driver has made their name here at Spa-Francorchamps, and this is one place which has been the jack of all trades when it has come to racing. Every time something can always make some changes. Someone who wants to really make something happen today, and Mikhail here is in what is a very nice Audi, looking to make this push, and it's so interesting to see the balance of performance. It's changed from week to week to week, and I wonder how the threat of rain has maybe put in some ideas, because I've seen Mikhail and Kyoto, I believe, both in Audis, but I'm seeing Windy Boy 97 deciding, yep, it's time for Porsches, and that's going to be something a little different from the norm that we've seen. So how will the Porsche handle in the wet?
Well, generally, it should normally be quite similar to the Audi, since they're both mid-engine cars. Of course, Porsche normally is very famous for their rear-engine cars, but this is the 911 RSR, so the GTE model, which got special permission to be mid-engines. And got included in this Group 3 class, and just in general, it's a very nice car overall. You can see it's very planted here. You can see it's completely just calm driving, and that's exactly what you want in a rain race.
And a rain race is always going to be tough as well for a number of different reasons. You can see here from the perspective right now all of the droplets smashing down onto the windscreen. Then you've got that very, very treacherous spray which will be coming up from the tyres. And of course, that's not going to be ideal as they go on through. They're going to have to really work out how to really mastermind that overtake. And that spray can be very, very distracting when you're behind another driver. When you know you're that close to be in that spray, you also have to be very alert to other prospects in the racing. And that is, of course, where the car actually is compared to where the spray is. Because you get that feeling, Nicholas, when you're driving along, say, on the Autobahn to Dortmund, as you were, say, a week ago, and, say, the rain starts hammering down, you really do start to struggle where you find yourself on the grip. Imagine that only with 12 cars, say, on a racing circuit like this, but with the power and the availability that these vehicles have, these GT3, these Group 3 classified vehicles, the same philosophy is it's a nightmare to go and look at.
Well, overall, I don't think that the idea is too far-fetched, to just keep on driving like you normally do. They have rain lights, so you get a better feel where the car in front is compared to, the motorway, for example. Simply because, on the motorway, you see a lot of spray, and suddenly you see brake lights, and at that point it's probably too late already. But these cars, they have very powerful headlights, they have very good wipers, even though it's only one in comparison to two that we have on a normal road car. And they have very powerful headlights, of course, so generally, in a GT3 car, it is still a lot easier to see through all of this rain that's pouring down here. Instead of, for example, that is a lot of loss of grip, and that's some nice puddle physics there as well that we can see, and through the wet ground, wonderful there, graphics display from Gran Turismo. But in a GT3 car generally, I'd say it's a lot easier to see in the rain than, for example, a Formula car.
And that's something worth keeping in mind with the Audis here today that we just saw from Ivan going through Jackie X corner, the former corner with no name. And that has been the Audi's rear tyres. They have a real tendency to get worn in a race like this. But ultimately, when you got big, chunky, wet weather tyres, they are tending to maybe wear out a little bit later than what you'd normally see in a road race. The difference here, though, is that despite the tyres being so chunky, it is still so easy just to lose the back end in a vehicle which is very, very short on the wheelbase. So what's going to be the worry here for a lot of these Audi drivers today, knowing that Jackie X Corner, when they were right at the beginning of this cycle, heading towards 2021, were struggling getting through the corner, now are finding that it could be exactly the same here today as we watch Christopher Terry now going through Jackie X.
Yeah, trying a bit, more of a careful approach. So generally for him and, just in general compared to all the other drivers, it's not a bad approach to take. Because generally Jackie X corner, it's a very tricky corner because it's for a moment a little bit off camber, because you obviously have to get on the inside, a bit on the curb, and it drops down as well. So you have a very nervous car there. The Audi, as you said, with a very short wheelbase. We've seen that a lot already with people spinning out from that, or just having half spins from that. And the track being wet, of course, it will not do you any favors in that situation.
Now, here's something that's quite interesting, watching Kenneth try and battle it out on this track. If we watch Sasha at the moment in 5th position, Kenneth has dived down into the pits. That's a wiggle, that's a big wiggle, that's a good save. Coming out of Pujon, the double apex left-hander, then heading into the Fania chicane right now, is that Kenneth went out and experimented out there on circuit, got a little idea of the intermediate compound tyres. Sasha again runs off the road there at the exit there, and Kenneth gets it all shades of wrong. He's now on the wet compound here, trying to work out, okay, where's the grip? How can I get things sorted again? And it's so tough when you have no confidence in the tyres and no confidence in these conditions. So what's the question here? If you're dealing with rain for the first time, not everybody practices out there in the rain. How do you drive when it comes to rain, and how do you understand the car and effectively keep the car on the island?
Well, it's basically a thing of if you...
They want today. I do believe that we have just lost a little bit of feed here, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll move back to us right here, right now, as we all look pretty ready here for a lot of action, hopefully in the not too distant future. So, Nicholas, the next question becomes this at this moment in time. Qualifying is 20 minutes long, but these laps are going to be so much longer than they have been over many a different point in time. We have just lost him ever so briefly here for you, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be watching this one today, be it TVM Sport, be it with, of course, motorsport.tv, ESTV, the Esports Television Network, as well as World Pro Racing's YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. If you haven't already, you can like, you can share, and you can subscribe to some more amazing content brought to you by World Pro Racing. And if you haven't already, you can head over to worldproracing.com. That's where all the great racing comes into play. And now that is going to be another place where it's worth keeping in mind because of the fact that we now have, in 1 week's time, 7 days from now, the first casual races over with Assetto Corsa Competizione. That's going to be something definitely worth keeping in mind and watching on a Tuesday. But Nicholas, welcome back first and foremost. And, well, the question I'm going to ask is, long laps, qualifying's 20 minutes long. How important is it now to get a good lap early?
Well, definitely. I mean, we saw that the fastest lap so far was a 2:43. So it's around 28 to, I'd say, 30 seconds slower than in the dry. It also depends a lot on the driver, but just compared from Kyokuro's fastest laps from way back in our casual races to the grand final, and also, of course, to, this championship here now. Well, 30 seconds, that seems about reasonable, because generally, Spa, you don't really have a place where you want standing water. And in Spa's defense, because of all the elevation change, you have rare places where you have standing water, but instead you have these little rivers just running across the track, which makes it not necessarily easier.
It's not necessarily easier, of course, when you've got rain. You're dealing with a few rivers here and a few rivers there. You have to be really, really mindful about where you can put the power down. But it's also a case, Nicholas, you could say, of contrasting lines, because sometimes a line in the dry works absolutely fantastically. You go out to into out again. But where does all that water pool up? Where is the grip on a wet surface? You find that sometimes a line can be very different, and sometimes you see drivers, say, for example, going all the way to the outside of a corner just because there's so much more grip there compared to the inside.
Yeah, it also plays into it a lot of the times when you have very, very heavy rubber laydown, for example. Of course, in the dry, you definitely always want to be on the rubber instead of on the marbles, because it just gives you a lot more grip. A lot of grip from the tires has been put down onto the track, so it gets faster and faster up to a certain point when, well, the physics just can't give you more grip. But in rain, it's very quickly the case that if you try braking on that said rubber, well, it's basically like ice, so it's AstroTurf's distant cousin, which is quite a bit of trouble when you just get caught out by that. And suddenly your tires just lock, ABS can't help you, no one can help you other than the tarmac runoff maybe.
Absolutely. We hope to get you over towards qualifying action in the next couple of minutes here, ladies and gentlemen. So do bear with us. We will be going over and hopefully seeing who is where in qualifying very, very soon. But Nicholas, you also have to talk about championship implications. It's the final round of the championship, and pretty much everybody everywhere has been searching for points here, there, and everywhere to try and pick things up. Do forgive me here, ladies and gentlemen, as I go and try and look up where exactly everything is at this stage in terms of the championship. But you look up and down the order and you see a number of places which can all change in the blink of an eye. And it goes all the way down to, for example, the battle for 8th, 9th, and 10th out overall in the championship, with Chris Pateri, with Sasha, and with Kenneth as well, who are split by just 2 points for 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yeah, and well, we've seen those position fights over and over again. There were also people, who have been improving a lot over this season. But I think, especially today, this rain race, it's something new. It's something that's really, truly new to pretty much everyone, simply because we didn't have any rain races before. So not just for the championship fight, this is going to be interesting, but as you say, for the entire fight down the order. And it will really be important to see who can adapt to these new conditions now the best, who can just stay error-free, and who can make it to the race unharmed.
And unharmed is the big key, because This is going to be a race, you'd feel, Nicholas, where if you do make a mistake and you do go off the circuit, it's going to be a whole lot tougher to go and grab that back. This is a track which has had a few improvements here and there, a few areas of circuit where there is, for example, a lot of runoff area where previously there has been gravel, but there also are a couple areas on circuit where if you do go off, it's grass, and grass at the best of times isn't the most stable of surface, but wet grass, how more difficult is wet grass to try and keep a car on?
Well, we saw it just now already with, I think it was Ivan who overdid it a little bit coming out of Jackie X corner. But grass is, well, even more slippery somehow than the ice that Robert Line and AstroTurf can be. So on grass, you basically just put a wheel on, the rest of the car can be completely on track, and the traction control will just think, okay, I'll go on strike for a minute, you deal with the car. And the car will be very happy to just pirouette out of control. We've actually seen that before in real life, I think at Misano a couple years ago in the GT World Challenge, which was quite a peculiar sight. So we'll see how people will be able to deal with this if it comes to this situation, and I'm actually quite interested to see on how they will deal with this if it comes to this situation.
And of course, we do see from time to time, Nicholas, a couple of drivers who maybe don't necessarily have the best pace in the world in the dry, managing to make that a reality when it comes to the wet. It seems like there are a couple drivers who get that Michael Schumacher tag, say, for example, of Rainmeister, and they are just able, when the track is at its very, very worst, and it's very slippery and it's very wet, just to come alive and find exactly what they need.
Yeah, it's really this. Well, how do you say it best? It's really this certain tendency. Some people get along well when they have a lot of grip. Others just can't get 100% out of that car, but they have that fine feeling and that ability to just push on the limit when the grip is just a lot more loose. So I think we will see some of what you said, Michael Schumacher driving today, maybe just from the start, maybe a bit later in the race, depending on how people adapt to these conditions. But yeah, either way, it would be a quite fitting place, wouldn't it? With Spa-Francorchamps, Michael Schumacher driving, and rain, of course.
Absolutely. Of course, that brought the first victory over for Michael Schumacher in his very illustrious career of his 91 race wins, which, of course, for those who have heard the story over and over again, will have heard it quite a lot from a certain perspective of the teammate of Michael Schumacher there, who has spent a lot of time over at Sky Sports, and that being Martin Brundle, who hasn't necessarily or didn't necessarily get the luck that day to find his maiden victory, and it never came back ultimately for Martin Brundle. But ultimately today, we got to look at now strategy, because we have seen for so long this has been a strategy race which has been built around, okay, how much of the tyre life are we using and how long are we staying in the pits for? What tyre are we comfortable with? Wet weather is a very, very mystical property, and it's almost like seeing into a crystal ball a little bit. You look over it, you pour over it like this, you do, Nicholas, and you go, well, what is it? Is it raining harder? Is it raining softer? Am I thinking about moving over to intermediate tyres? Am I happy still there on wets? Is it too wet? And do we need to cancel the race? There are so many things you look at with rain, and ultimately, it doesn't matter how good or how amazing you are as a driver, there is no way to predict what's up there.
Well, we don't quite have a weather radar, but of course, good old eyes looking at the clouds. It's never failed any of us so far. But yeah, it's going to be, I think today's going to be another case of the classic, well, for our standards, classic, we race until the tires drop off. And, then just refuel a bit less and don't go for full stints. Because I think especially in the rain, we have this accelerated tire wear here, and of course, the more you slide, and in the rain it's certainly a lot easier to slide, the faster the tires will drop off. So I think we will see overall quite short stints today.
We're going to step aside very briefly here with World Pro Racing. We'll be back with more coverage brought to you of the final round of the HyperX Endurance Series after these few messages. This event is brought to you by World Pro Racing, the Malta Motorsport Federation, GMR Entertainment, WJ England and Son, Melita, Media Looks, Restream.io, Gaming Malta, VisitMalta.com, and TVM Sport. This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. We do apologise for the long delay, ladies and gentlemen, and it is with a heavy heart that we do have to tell you that today's event has been postponed and will be postponed for 24 hours. We'll be moving over to tomorrow night, same time, same place, for the racing action of the final round of the HyperX Endurance Series. It's a shame we had issues connectivity-wise on our end, so we were unable to bring you coverage of this event today. But crucially, tomorrow is going to be another day, another chance to get in an extra little bit of practice to make sure that they are at their very, very best. On top of that, we'll be moving over towards Assetto Corsa Competizione. That will be on Tuesday the 20th. In 1 week's time, we'll be getting into some casual races there. And on top of that as well, Wednesday Night Casual is back on the 21st, the day after Assetto Corsa Competizione. We'll be taking on the Toyota Celica GTO, and we'll be going to Watkins Glen for that one. But it's a shame to have things end like this. On behalf of myself, the team that have been working so tirelessly behind the scenes with World Pro Racing and Nicholas Hillebrand alongside me here for this one. My name's been Jake Sperry, and ultimately we'll be waiting for you 1 day from now. It'll be some amazing sim racing action. Will the championship be secured? Well, you've just got to wait that tantalizing little bit longer. This event is brought to you by World Pro Racing, the Malta Motorsport Federation, GMR Entertainment, WJ England and Son, Melita, Media Looks, Restream.io, Gaming Malta, VisitMalta.com, and TVM Sport. This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.